Hi, I'm Charles with Handicap. A boy is born blind with the hero scar carved into his body. He is told he'll never see the world, so he decides to use magic to create his own eyes. While testing small things with his magic, he realizes that he can tell red apples from green ones without seeing them. He then uses magic to trace the ink in books and slowly begins to understand the pictures. He pushes further, eventually learning how to change water's color and shape, not for practice, but to learn how the world actually works. Eventually, he reaches a point where he can shape water into animals that move and fly on their own. The problem is that he eventually surpasses everyone teaching him, and the only person left who can guide him is a royal sorcerer he's not even allowed to meet. The story begins as a boy named Cunnen wonders what it means to be able to see. Everyone has told him that his eyes can't see, so he wonders what it means. Cunnen has been blind his entire life, so his father explains that being able to see is simply the ability to perceive colors and shapes. As for Cunnen, his eyes bear the hero's scar left by the holy knight named Hester. Cunnen's father says that this is something to be proud of, so Cunnen agrees and accepts the meaning behind his father's words. Some maids can't help but feel sorry for him, but Cunnen can't understand why. He has never known any different, so he doesn't know why they would pity him for not being able to see. One day, Cunnen is taken to meet with someone named Miss Jenny, and he wonders if he really has to study magic. He is told that it would be a waste not to, because Cunnen was born with a water crest. Being able to use magic is a very special thing, so they want Cunnen to take full advantage. Cunnen, on the other hand, isn't as optimistic, because even if he learned magic, he still can't go anywhere without someone's help. Cunnen meets with Jenny, and she introduces herself as his magic tutor before starting their first lesson. She instructs Cunnen to say the word Aori, and she's impressed when he's able to cast a spell on his first try. Cunnen can only wonder what kind of magic he's using, so Jenny explains that it's water magic. Unfortunately, Cunnen can't see his own amazing feat, so Jenny describes it to him in great detail. The spell is called Aori, and it allows him to produce water using magic. She says that the water is crystal clear, and it's the size of an eyeball. Just mentioning eyes makes Cunnen think about his own, so Jenny apologizes. She fears that she might have made Cunnen upset, but it's the opposite. Her words have inspired Cunnen as he gets an idea. If he gets better at using magic, then he might be able to create eyes for himself. Cunnen finds new hope in this idea, so he decides to make it his life goal to make his own eyes with magic. With a new outlook on life, Cunnen finds that he's more interested in things than ever. Even the sandwich he's eating is a lot more interesting. He never gave it a single thought before, but now he can't help but wonder what's inside. With this hope for a better life, Cunnen's able to see more meaning in everything. Everything is really intriguing to him now, and he wants to know all about the world around him. Cunnen wonders what the grass-like thing is in his sandwich, so his maid explains that it's lettuce. The zesty tasting thing is mustard, and the sweet part is a plum. Even the maid is enjoying this, because Cunnen's new interest in food makes it more fun to cook for him. Cunnen says that he smells a lot of different things, and we see that his maid got carried away. She reiterates that cooking is really a lot of fun now, which is why she made several dishes for Cunnen. Afterwards, Cunnen goes to another lesson. He explains that he would like to hear the story of the Holy Knight Hester, but the teacher is shocked. She doesn't know if that's a good idea, but Cunnen's maid assures her that he is ready. Miss Flora wants him to tell her if the story becomes too much for him, but Cunnen tells her not to worry. He is thirsty for all kinds of knowledge right now, and he wants to learn as much as he can. Flora explains that a long time ago, there was a war between the heroes of the world and the Demon Lord. Hester was the hero of this nation, and he eventually was the one that defeated the Demon Lord. Unfortunately, he paid the price for doing so, as he lost an arm and a leg in the battle. Since that war, every now and then, the descendants of Hester are born with something missing. They are born without an arm or leg, or in Cunnen's case, he was born without eyesight. People have called such children reincarnations of the hero, or the hero's scar. As Cunnen practices magic again, he thinks about how he's one of the reincarnations of the hero. He doesn't let that define him though, because he's still himself, and this magic he's using is his own magical power. Cunnen's practice is going well, as he's able to control water a lot better now. He manages to split one of the water orbs, and Echo tells him that he split them into perfectly equal shapes. Cunnen is getting more confident with every practice, and he once again vows to create new eyes with magic one day. Cunnen refuses to let anything stop him, but using magic is exhausting. He has been practicing relentlessly since he started, and his body finally gives out. Cunnen says that he needs a lot more, so Echo assumes that he means that he needs a lot more affection from her. She credits herself for showering him with limitless affection because it has been helping him in training. Cunnen is quick to correct her though, because what he really needs is way more knowledge and stamina. That is what's necessary for strong magic, and Kanin is more determined than ever. Aiko reminds him that he's only 7 years old, so he will grow stronger, but Kanin refuses to waste any time. Passing out from using basic magic is unacceptable, so he must improve. Aiko comes up with a great idea and says that he should increase his food intake to have more energy. Doing it too quickly might cause problems though, so they will do it in phases. Kanin likes the idea, so he says that he also wants to strengthen his muscles. Unfortunately, he isn't very good at running or walking, so Aiko suggests that he do sword practice instead. Kanin loves this idea as well, so Aiko rushes off to find the best swordsman to teach him. Before she leaves, Kanin thanks her for helping him so much, and she thanks him in return for the praise. A while later, we see that Kanin has already begun his sword training. His instructor is named Oro, and he tells Kanin to pay attention to the muscles in his arms and shoulders. Oro is very detailed with his lesson, and he instructs Kanin to swing down in order of shoulders, elbows, and wrists. Eventually, Jenny arrives for his next lesson, so Kanin thanks Master Oro. Jenny's surprised to see that Kanin's learning swordplay, so he explains that he's doing it to help improve his magic. He needs more knowledge and stamina, so having a more dependable body will benefit him greatly. Jenny's in complete disbelief because Kanin has really changed a lot since they first met just a few days ago. Jenny tells him that he can take a short break before they begin, but Kanin is eager to get started. Jenny decides that they will go over the Aori spell again from the last lesson, so she tells him that he can begin with what he remembers. She says that it's okay if he forgot how to do it, and she is shocked when Kanin displays his immense progress. He is able to summon several orbs at once, and Jenny is left speechless. She only taught him a little bit of the spell, so she can't believe that Kanin has already mastered this much on his own. This kind of progress is terrifying, but what's even more shocking is that Kanin doesn't even realize how incredible this is. Elsewhere, a girl named Mirika is told that her carriage is ready. Mirika wishes that she didn't have to go, so her maid wonders if she really hates the idea of visiting her fiancé that much. Mirika points out that Kanin probably feels the same way because he always looks so gloomy every time they meet. Unfortunately, Mirika has no choice but to go because the king was the one who decided this. As she goes to visit Kanin, Mirika thinks about how Kanin was born with the hero scar. This makes him a very important person to the kingdom, so their political marriage is part of her obligation as royalty. Unfortunately, Mirika doesn't have many fond memories of being with Kanin because he's always been so sad. She would ask him what he wanted to play, but he would say that he didn't want to play anything. He explained to her that he couldn't do anything or go anywhere alone, so there was nothing he wanted to do. Mirika couldn't bear to hear this, and she doesn't look forward to having to look at such a gloomy face for the rest of her life. When she arrives, however, Mirika is shocked after being greeted by the much happier Kanin. She wonders what changed, so Kanin reveals that he's fallen in love with magic. Kanin wastes no time as he shows her what he can do, and she's amazed by the beautiful orbs of water that he can make. Kanin turns the water into a beautiful rainbow, and he takes a moment to apologize to Mirika. He knows that being around him must have been difficult for her, so he says sorry for making her tread lightly around him. Kanin wonders if she would like to hear the stories he has to tell her about his improvement, and Mirika's in disbelief. Kanin's a completely different person, and she didn't even know that he could make such a happy face. She accepts his invitation, so they spend the entire day together. On her way home, Mirika thinks about how much fun she had. Kanin meanwhile thinks about how he never offered his hand to Mirika like that before. Aiko points out that it's because he's a gentleman, so Kanin decides to learn more about this as well. He turns to Miss Flora and requests for her to teach him how to behave around Princess Mirika. He enjoyed spending time with her, so he wants to become a gentleman worthy of her. That night, Jenny can't get over what she saw from Kanin. He was able to create 7 beautiful water balls all at the same time, and not even she can do that. Kanin has already perfected elementary magic, and he's learning too fast for her to keep up. There's nothing for her to teach him anymore, so she decides that they will have to move on to intermediate magic. Jenny stops herself though, because that might put too much of a strain on Kanin. This was supposed to be a sweet job, where she got paid handsomely to teach elementary magic to a kid, but it's turning into something else. Kanin is advancing rapidly, and he's showing no signs of stopping. The problem is that while magic is convenient, it can also be dangerous. Because of this, Aiko determines that it's too soon for the 7-year-old Kanin to learn sophisticated magic. It's also too soon to give up though, so Jenny's determined to find the best way to teach him. On top of that, Jenny says that she can't give up on this because she has bills to pay. The next day, she tells Kanin that they will be trying something different today. Kanin's ready to get started, and he doesn't deny her request. He declares that hearing her suggestion using her beautiful voice makes him feel like he will accept anything that she has to say. Kanin's charm is off the charts now because of what Flora taught him, so Jenny can't believe that he's changed even more. Jenny begins a new lesson by explaining that the Aori spell Kanin has been using simply creates water. However, if the spell is broken down into the different kinds of magic being used, Kanin will get a better understanding of it. The Aori spell can be separated into the act of producing water, then making it float, and then maintaining its ball shape. If they break it down even further, they can see that there's a lot more things that can be controlled. These are its temperature, viscosity, composition, color, shape, scent, and taste. Jenny gives him a demonstration by forming 2 orbs and telling Kanin to touch them. Kanin does, and he immediately notices that one of them is cold and the other is warm. Jenny then says that magical alterations add character to magic, but Kanin doesn't understand what she means. Jenny explains that character is what defines and differentiates every sorcerer and their talents. By making alterations in their magic, a sorcerer can create original kinds of magic that is uniquely their own. Kanin understands now, as he realizes that he can alter the fine details of his magic and infuse his own characteristics into it. Kanin uses Aori again, but this time he does something different. He has Aiko drink the water, and she's amazed to find that it has the flavor of a plum. She's really impressed, but Jenny is terrified. She stayed up all night to come up with this magic alteration lesson, but Kanin was able to master it in seconds. Kanin says that it wasn't easy, but he promises his teacher that he will learn to do all the alterations as soon as he can. That night, we see that Kanin has been studying relentlessly, and he's even practicing in bed. He thinks about how he can tell the shape and smell of things, but he doesn't know the colors because he can't see. Without being able to do that, Kanin knows that he won't be able to create magical alterations, and he definitely won't be able to create eyeballs. Kanin assures himself, however, that he will figure out a way because he desperately wants to see everything the world has to offer. A while later, Aiko asks Kanin to create some water so she can make some tea for him. Kanin uses Aori to create another sphere, and he moves it to her like normal. However, as the water makes its way to her, Kanin gasps in disbelief. Aiko wonders if something is wrong, so Kanin reveals that he thinks he just saw something. Aiko can't believe that he was able to see, so she says that if he's joking around, then she will punish him. Kanin says that he isn't sure about it either, and technically he didn't actually see. Aiko demands for him to stop messing around, so Kanin explains exactly what happened. His eyes didn't actually see anything, but he feels like he saw colors with his magic. It was more like he felt what things look like, but he can't really explain it. Kanin then lifts an apple, and he wonders if it's red. The apple's actually green, so Kanin grabs another one, and he guesses correctly this time. Aiko's amazed because this means that Kanin's able to sense their colors, and the only problem is that the names of the colors don't correspond for him yet. This is understandable because Kanin has never seen them before, so he just needs to learn to associate words with the stuff he can detect now. Aiko thinks they should test his new ability, so she instructs him to count how many apples there are. Kanin counts 3 red apples and 2 green ones, so Aiko is once again amazed. He really is able to see things with his magic, and it's like some kind of miracle. Later, Kanin's father is shocked to learn that Kanin's able to see colors. Aiko explains that it's only in a small range, but Kanin definitely seems to be able to recognize colors now. The closer an item is, the clearer it is, and he can also tell the color when he touches them. Kanin can even use this on books by tracing the ink to recognize the colors in pictures. He hasn't learned to read letters yet, but he's already consumed several picture books and encyclopedias. Arson's very impressed with Kanin's growth, so he says that Aiko should move back into the main house. Aiko's job was to watch over Kanin because he needed to be tended to all the time because of his condition, but he doesn't seem to need that anymore. Aiko declines the offer as she points out that Kanin is trying to change a lot right now. Every day is a struggle for him, and changing his environment might hinder him from achieving his goals. That's the last thing she wants, so Aiko decides to stay by his side. Arson apologizes for putting so much of the responsibility on her, but Aiko loves her job, and she really enjoys the great pay. Arson couldn't be happier, and he points out that Aiko's cheeriness must be having a really good effect on Kanin. Aiko's grateful for the kind words, but she says that instead of a compliment, she would really like a raise. Later, Aiko's surprised when Kanin wants to do some more experimenting. Kanin explains that Jenny will be arriving soon, so he wants to surprise her with something. Kanin then uses Aori, but this time he colors the water red. He explains that when he makes the orbs bigger, he can sense the color more strongly. Just then, Kanin's mother arrives after hearing that he can see colors with magic. Kanan compliments his mother like the exquisite gentleman he's learning to be, but he loses focus. His spell ends, and it covers Kanan and Aiko in red water. Kanan addresses his mother again, but it looks like he's covered in blood, and his mother is terrified. Kanan doesn't understand why his mother just screamed right now, so Aiko must explain that red is also the color of human blood. Arsene is furious at them, so he says that Kanan is grounded, and Aiko's pay will get cut. Absolute chaos ensues, and we see that Jenny's nearby. She is shocked because Kanan just keeps advancing, and he's becoming more terrifying every day. Jenny wonders just how far he can go, and she thinks that he might even earn the highest honor in this world. It's incredibly rare to earn this title, but Jenny believes that he can become the Cerulean Sorcerer. 2 years later, we see that Kanan has turned 9 years old. Arsene determines that they have to start thinking about Kanan's schooling, and we see that he's looking at an academy. Later, Arsene tells Kanan's brother named Ryota that he's thinking about sending Kanan to the school for noble children. Ryota is worried though, because Kanan has never been outside of the mansion. Arsene is sure that Kanan will be scared of strangers in the outside world, so that is why he wants Ryota to accompany his brother. Ryota is really concerned though, because of a bad memory he has. A few years ago, Kanan was afraid to go out and play, so Ryota assured him that he would be fine. He promised to hold Kanan's hand to help him, but Kanan slipped. Ryota lost hold of his brother, and he hasn't been able to forgive himself for letting Kanan down. He's eager to redeem himself though, so he promises his father that he will protect Kanan at any cost. As for Kanan, he explains to Aiko that he's studying hydromancy. To do it, you must put water into a container that is processed with supernatural powers. This allows the user to tell fortunes with it, or look for missing items. Aiko wonders if they can look for the youth and beauty that she has lost over the years, but this is just another signal for Kanan to turn on the charm. He shows just how much progress he has made, as he tells Aiko not to worry because she is young and right in the middle of the bloom of youth. She wonders if they can use it to find her a future husband, but the smooth Kanan says that men will be lining up to be with her. As Kanan has another class with Miss Flora, she can't help but think about how much progress he has made. She has taught him manners as a noble gentleman, and now he speaks with a lot of confidence. Her only concern is that he might be seen as being a bit shallow, and Kanan doesn't make things any better as he compliments his teacher. Still, she's relieved, because compared to how depressed he was 2 years ago, Kanan has become much sweeter. Afterwards, Aiko takes Kanan to go see his father. It's freezing cold outside though, so Kanan uses Aori to create some warm orbs of water. Their warmth is incredibly soothing, and Aiko's amazed by how soft they are. Kanan explains that he encased the water with a super soft and stretchy membrane, so the orbs almost feel like pillows. He says that this is just a prototype, but Aiko says that she wants a bed made out of this stuff already. Kanan can't help but wonder why his father wants to see him, and he fears that he might have done something bad. Aiko points out that Kanan hasn't done anything wrong recently because he learned his lesson from the Sea of Blood incident 2 years ago. When they arrive, Kanan is greeted by his brother. Ryota wonders if Kanan would like for him to guide him by hand, but Kanan declines. He can sense his surroundings pretty well now, so he doesn't need help anymore. Ryota can't help but think about how his brother always used to need him, and Kanan can sense that something is wrong. Ryota says that it's nothing though, and he's just impressed by what Kanan's able to do with magic. When Kanan meets with his parents, Arsene says that they have something important to tell him. Flora informed them that Kanan finished learning what is covered at the school for noble children. He has gotten really far with homeschooling, but they wonder if Kanan is interested in going to the actual school. Kanan immediately says that he's not interested because he would hate to trouble anyone around him. Besides that, there is something that he has decided to prioritize over school. Arsene says that he always believed that Kanan should do what his heart desires, but there is a problem. Noble children are obligated to go to school, so Arsene has arranged for Kanan to attend the school for nobles. However, Arsene agrees that it's no longer necessary for Kanan to go, and he even has special permission from the king to not attend. Arsene leaves the decision to Kanan, but he warns that there are other things that he needs to take into consideration. Kanan assumes that he's talking about how he spends his allowance, but that's not it. The two of them begin to bicker over this misunderstanding because Kanan thinks that his father's upset with him. He assumes that Arsene is still angry about him turning their garden into a sea of blood, but Arsene already forgot about that. Being reminded about it upsets him though, so he says that Kanan is grounded again. After they settle down, Arsene explains that what Kanan really needs to think about is how his decision will affect Mirika. Those who do not fulfill their noble obligations are at a disadvantage in high society. Because of Kanan's decision to not go to school, Mirika might be viewed in a negative light when they get married. That's the last thing Kanan wants, so he decides to go to school. Arson points out that he's not asking Kanin to go for years because he just needs to take the promotion exams. Kanin has no clue what those are, so Arson explains. If Kanin passes the exams, he will receive the official certificate of graduation. There are 5 exams needed to graduate, and how long they take depends on the student. There are kids who rush through them and graduate as early as a few days after they enroll. There are also kids who take their time and study carefully. That's a huge relief for Kanin because it seems pretty easy, and he plans to go pretty fast. Ryota explains that he and Mirika will be graduating after the next exam, so Kanin will be taking it with them. Kanin is taken to get prepared for his trip, so Arson tells Ryota something important. There are other royals at the school, and he fears that they might try to approach Kanin and Mirika. Ryota tells his father not to fear, and he promises to watch over them. Later, Mirika is delighted to hear that Kanin will be going to school. She looks forward to spending time with him there, but Kanin admits that he doesn't know what to expect. Mirika promises to guide him, but something else is bothering our hero. He points out that if Mirika is with him, then all the boys who are in love with her will be jealous of him. Mirika says that won't be a problem, so Kanin wonders if it's because she's not popular. Mirika is insulted, so she assures him that there are many boys that like her. Kanin doesn't look forward to confronting them, so he wonders if he should get a new cane for self-defense. Eventually, we see that Kanin's all geared up and ready for his new adventure. Aiko is amazed to see how dashing he is, and she says that he looks like a classic storybook prince. Kanin plays along, and he says that his true identity has been revealed. Kanin then says goodbye to his family, and he uses a yori to put water around the wheels of his carriage. This is to prevent the carriage from bouncing around, and Ryota is amazed by how smooth the ride is. Magic is really convenient, and Kanin's really glad he found out about it. Since magic is so versatile, Kanin hopes that even he may be able to find a job in the future. Ryota is sure that Kanin must be nervous to travel so far from home, but Kanin points out that he's grown a bit stronger. Kanin reveals that he knows how much his brother has worried about him. He can also tell that Ryota blamed himself when he fell that one day. Kanin assures his brother that he's alright now, and so much has changed. He used to wish that he could just disappear, but now he's determined to survive no matter what. Ryota is incredibly relieved because Kanin really has changed a lot since learning magic. Kanin keeps going as he says that he has a drive to prevail even if the rest of the world perishes. Kanin's getting pretty extreme now, so Ryota wonders if his brother is getting carried away. Kanin still isn't done though, as he vows to outlive everyone so thoroughly that he feels bad for the entire human race. Ryota never could have imagined Kanin being this way, so he wonders if this is really his little brother. Just then, Ryota is amazed, as Kanin can tell that they're getting close to the school. It can't even be seen from here, so Kanin explains that he can sense a lot of people nearby. Eventually, they arrive at the school, and they are greeted by Mirika. Kanin is as charming as always, so he asks Mirika if he can have half of her day so he can tell her how happy he is to hear her beautiful voice first thing in the morning. Mirika matches his energy and tells him that his tie is adorable. Kanin agrees, but he wonders if it's even more adorable than she is. Mirika says it's not, and he's glad, because if it was, then he would have torn it off. The two go back and forth like this for a while, so Ryota can only wonder what's wrong with them. Mirika prepares to lead them inside, but she wonders if something is wrong because Kanin isn't following them. Kanin has gone completely silent as he can hear the voices of everyone in the school. There are so many people inside, and their voices are endless. This is Kanin's first time being in a public space with countless people, and he is sure that his past self would have run from this. Kanin is a different person now though, so he confidently heads inside. Nearby, a professor named Cast thinks about how it's almost time to greet her new student. It's Kanin, and she knows him to be the noble with the hero scar. She heard rumors that he's very shy, and she wonders if a novice teacher like her can handle the job of showing him around. Just then, some girls fawn over a new student. They say that he's incredibly charming, and they compare him to a prince. They're talking about Kanin, so Cass can't believe that this is the same kid that she heard was so shy. Cass introduces herself and explains that she will be Kanin's guide. Kanin puts on the charm like always, so Cass can only wonder if this kid is real. Just then the school bell rings, which means that Kanin's group will have to split up. They promise to meet back together at lunchtime, and Ryota asks for Cass to take care of his brother. The group parts ways, and Cass gets the feeling that guiding Kanin will be a lot of work. Meanwhile, some students point out that Kanin the hero scar has finally arrived. Some of them have heard that Kanin received blessings from the king because he's the first hero scar that has been born in the last 100 years. This upsets their leader, so the kid takes it back and says that Kanin doesn't seem like that big of a deal. These kids are terrified of the kid named Lyle, and they say that the hero scar is probably just a superstition. Lyle's hate for Cunnin is already very clear, and he tells his gang that it's time to go. Afterwards, Cass gives Cunnin an overview of the promotion exams. He already knows that if he passes the 5 exams, he will receive the certificate of graduation, but there is more. Cass explains that there are many students who graduate in 3 to 5 years. The promotion exams are for reviewing what a student has spent time studying over the past few months to year. If a student listens in class, then it won't be difficult, but if they fail the exam, they won't be able to take it again for another month. Cunnin understands now, as he says that basically, if he passes an exam, he can continue on to the next. But if he doesn't, then he can't take the next one until another month passes. Cass then goes on to explain that normally after taking an exam, there will be a period of time to prepare for the next. As an exception though, Cunnin's exams will be held in a shorter period. Cunnin doesn't know what she means by exception, so she explains that she received orders from his parents to do so. Cunnin is bothered by this, as he explains that his father and the king are besties. This is blatant nepotism, so he apologizes for his father pressuring the school to give him an exception. This is over Cass' pay grade though, so she says that she will pretend that she didn't hear that. Cass gives him the exam, but Cunnin isn't done explaining. He points out that his father and the king are thick as thieves, and they have been friends since the previous generation. Cass really doesn't want to get in any trouble, so she just begs Cunnin to start the exam. Afterwards, Cass says that she never expected Cunnin to continue chit-chatting for the entire exam. She is now grading his test, and she's shocked to find that he got everything right. He was really distracted because of all the talking he was doing, so she can't understand how he did so well. Elsewhere, Cunnin meets with Miraca to have lunch. Just then, they bump into Lyle, and Miraca is clearly bothered. A crowd begins to gather around them, so Cunnin can only wonder what's wrong. He can sense the tensions rising, so he wonders who this guy is in front of them. The crowd is getting even bigger, and Ryota arrives to see that something is happening. It turns out that Lyle's the prince, and he wonders if this brat in front of him really received a blessing from his father. Lyle is also Miraca's brother, so she begs for him to stop, but he tells her to stay out of this. Cunnin, meanwhile, is upset because he was having a good time with Miraca. He doesn't care who it is, because if this person is upsetting Miraca and getting in their way, then they are his enemy. Cunnin prepares to handle the situation, but Ryota arrives before things escalate. He wonders what's going on, but Lyle is furious. He calls Ryota disrespectful because he never gave him permission to speak. Lyle's gang starts piling on, so Ryota can't believe that royalty is already approaching Cunnin on the first day. Just then, Cunnin quietly says the word Aori. This allows Cunnin to control all the water in the nearby area without anyone noticing. He then uses his immense and overwhelming power to put that water on Lyle's pants. Ryota quickly finds that there's no reasoning with Lyle, but it's okay because Cunnin has it taken care of. Cunnin says that it seems like Lyle just wet himself, and Lyle's shocked to find that his pants are all wet. Lyle tries to deny it, but it's too late, as the damage has already been done. Everyone thinks he just soiled himself, but Cunnin's friends know that it was his doing. No one else knows though, so Lyle runs off after being completely embarrassed. Cunnin is pleased with himself for getting rid of that nuisance, so he says that it's time to feast. Ryota isn't as happy about the situation though, as he is sure that Cunnin was behind the attack. Cunnin just ignores that fact and says that he's in the mood for a hamburger. As they eat, Miraca explains that Lyle is her brother. Cunnin is horrified to hear this because he can't even imagine a big brother that doesn't cherish his siblings. Unfortunately, his friends explain that they do exist, so Cunnin says that he's glad that Ryota is his big brother. Ryota feels the same way, and he can't help but think about how much Cunnin has changed. He was always really shy, but now he's sticking up for himself against the prince. The prince is practically untouchable, and Ryota doesn't know how he will explain what happened to their father. Miraca says that this is just how Cunnin is now, so they shouldn't worry about it and just enjoy their meal. Cunnin doesn't give it another thought, and he just wants to talk about how delicious this burger is. Ryota can't help himself though, and he just hopes that they can graduate without any more problems. Unfortunately for him, this probably won't be the case, as we see that Lyle is furious about what just happened. Lyle is embarrassed, and he can't help but notice how everyone is talking about him wetting himself. Even when Cass tells him to walk quietly in the hallway, Lyle tells her to shut her mouth. Cunnin wonders why Lyle was being so rude to them, so Miraca assumes that it's because he wants to keep her in check. Lyle is the 6th prince, and Miraca's the 9th princess. In the royal hierarchy, she is below him, but Lyle still feels threatened. Miraca is engaged to Cunnin, who's a sorcerer, and the one known as the hero Scar. Their engagement is a big deal, so Mirika's status is rapidly rising. Cunnin has just made his debut into society, so their status together will be above Lyle's. Mirika doesn't want Cunnin to get the wrong idea though, so she assures him that she doesn't care about her status in high society. Even if her father didn't order it, she would still be happy to marry Cunnin. Cunnin turns on the charm again, as he says that he feels the same way. He couldn't be happier, and he might even kneel down to the king in gratitude the next time they meet. Cunnin says that he would actually like to apologize to Lyle, but the others won't allow it. A while later, we see that the day has arrived for Cunnin to take the final exam. He uses Aori, and Jenny says that today's alteration will be for Cunnin to try and change the sensation of the water. Cunnin does it immediately, and Jenny's impressed to see that the orb now feels like an apple. She then instructs Cunnin to touch other things during the day so he can try expressing their sensation. Afterwards, Ryota wonders what Cunnin is doing by petting a horse, so he explains that he's collecting samples for alterations. Mirika arrives soon after, so Cunnin declares how terrible he feels. Today is his last day hearing her voice at school, and it feels like the world is fading into dusk out of sorrow. Cunnin begins to get even more dramatic, but Mirika reminds him that school doesn't end until later in the day. Cunnin immediately changes his mind and says that he isn't sad anymore, so Ryota can't help but think that the two of them are crazy. Afterwards, Cass explains that Cunnin will be taking the final exam with the other students. Cunnin is amazed because it feels like an actual school, but he says it's a shame that he will no longer be in a special room with Cass. Cass assures him that she will still be watching him, even if there are more students, so she wishes him the best of luck. Ryota can't help but notice how close they are, so Cunnin explains that they talked a lot during the exams. Cunnin even learned that Cass became a teacher after following a guy she fell in love with. The guy unfortunately failed the test, so only she became a teacher. That's a lot of personal information, so the others can't believe that Cass discussed all that with Cunnin. Just then, the other students ask Mirika if she would introduce them to her fiancé. Cass says that he should introduce himself, so Cunnin prepares himself. He turns on the theatrics once more, and he tells everyone that it's nice to meet them. Cunnin formally introduces himself, and everyone listens closely. Cunnin doesn't stop there, as he says that he is relieved. He was starting to wonder if Mirika and his brother had no friends, because no one would approach them or talk to them. Ryota and Mirika are insulted, so Mirika reveals that she told everyone to leave them alone. This was a rare opportunity for her to enjoy school life with Cunnin, so she didn't want them being bothered. Cunnin didn't know that, and he's glad to see that his brother isn't lonely, and Mirika really does have friends. It's a huge relief for him not to have to make them feel better by reminding them how bad his situation is. Cunnin reminds them anyway by saying that he didn't have any friends growing up, and Mirika feels terrible for him. That doesn't last long, however, as she remembers that Cunnin is totally fine with not having friends. Cunnin ends the dramatic scene as he confirms this, and he points out that humans do surprisingly well while being alone. Nearby, Lao's reminded that it's time for the exam. Lao declares that it can wait, but his boys tell him that it can't be ignored. The final exam will be conducted all at once, and not even the prince himself is allowed to be late. Meanwhile, Cunnin collects more samples by petting a bird, and the students are told to take their seats for the exam. Mirika wants Cunnin to sit by her, but everyone is horrified when the angry Lyle appears. Everyone is on edge as they wonder what he will do, and Lyle thinks about how much he hates them all. They never say anything to his face, and they always talk behind his back. This is even true for everyone at the castle, because the maids always talk about how he's causing trouble at school. His rage builds the more he thinks about it, but he is shocked when Cunnin politely introduces himself. The entire room is in disbelief after seeing how casually Cunnin just walked up to Lyle, and they fear that Cunnin may lose his life. Cunnin keeps his cheery attitude though, as he says that he is happy to get the chance to say hello. Lyle's getting even more upset, but Cunnin reminds him that they will be future brother-in-laws, so they should try to get along. Unfortunately, this doesn't work, as Lyle points out that he never gave Cunnin permission to speak or hold his hand. Cunnin can tell by Lyle's forceful hand just how serious he is, and he is impressed. Cunnin compliments him by saying that he is sure Lyle's a great leader, and he wishes that he had eyes so he could see him. Lyle is weirded out though, and he can only ask Mirika what is wrong with him. Everyone has a good laugh, and Mirika apologizes because she never knew that Lyle could get flustered and blush like he is now. After everyone takes the exam, Cass says that she will announce the names of the students who passed. Everyone watches closely to see if she writes their names on the board, but this lady just draws a giant flower. This is because everyone passed, so the entire class celebrates. They all congratulate each other, and Mirika is delighted to be graduating with Cunnin. Cunnin heads home shortly after, and he thanks everyone for making his experience a lot of fun. Cass is really proud of him because while he's a bit quirky, he's also a very bright student. La watches him leave, and we see that he's in a much better mood. He tells his gang that it's time to go, and they all promise to follow the prince wherever he goes. A while later, Jenny helps Kanan train again. She shouts different alterations for the Aori spell, and Kanan immediately does them. Jenny shouts out whirlwind, so Kanan makes the orb of water spin around like a whirlwind. Jenny then instructs him to make a sudden stop and split it into 10, and Kanan does that too. Jenny can't believe that he's able to do them all, so she turns up the difficulty. She makes him change their color, and he changes them to the exact color she calls out. Finally, she has him change their texture, and he does that as well. Jenny's pleased to see that he did so well, but Kanan isn't finished. He says that he can do more, and he shocks Jenny by transforming the spear into the shape of a bird. It's not just a shape either, because the bird can even fly away. Jenny's entire world begins to crash down because Kanan has advanced far beyond her expectations. He's doing things she couldn't even imagine, so she says that it's all over for her. Afterwards, Jenny asks to speak with Kanan. Kanan assumes that it has something to do with a dinner to celebrate his graduation, but that's not it. Jenny reveals that she needs to tell him the truth, but first she wants to make sure that he's mentally prepared. She's going to reveal a shocking truth, so Kanan sends his maid away. Kanan thinks he knows what she's going to say, but it's also sudden. He assumes that she's going to reveal that she's actually the goddess of the night sky, and she wants to tell him that she must soon return to the world of the gods. Jenny commends him for his great imagination, but that's not even close to being true. Jenny stops wasting time, and she reveals that the truth is that there is nothing she can teach him anymore. The fact is that it's actually been quite a while since she has had nothing to teach him. She covered elementary magic with no attacking ability, and she has taught him everything she could in that range. Now he's using magic even better than she can, and once he learns new magic, he will surpass her in no time. Kanan says that's not true because he enjoyed the little magic challenges she came up with, trying to deceive him with every possible method. She kept coming up with new ways to challenge him, and it broadened his range of magic. Jenny was also the one that inspired him and gave him a purpose in life. Jenny admits that it did take a lot of work to come up with the challenges, and there were many times she struggled to come up with one. Kanan refuses to believe that she has nothing left to offer, so he assumes that there has to be another reason. He wonders if she actually wants to quit because her pay is low, so he says that he can ask his father to give her a raise. Jenny reveals that it's actually the opposite, because it's unbearable to get paid so much when she has no job to fulfill. She is at her limit, and she thinks Kanan deserves better. Jenny then says that he should have an exceptional sorcerer who's much better than her as his teacher. She can't help him improve any further, and she can no longer guide him. Kanan knows that she was just piecing together the lessons with little challenges, but he says that this is still a talent. She came up with so many of them, and they were all very helpful. Kanan doesn't want her to leave, so he just tells her to keep deceiving him. He desperately wants her to keep being his teacher, so he once again demands for her to keep deceiving him. As Kanan makes his plea, a bunch of the animals he created with the Aori spell begin to appear. They all surround Jenny, but she still says that she can't teach him anymore. Kanan's magic is far more advanced than hers now, and she's doing what's best for him. The two argue back and forth for a while, but in the end, Jenny decides that she must leave. As she leaves, Jenny can't help but think about how Kanan is an unmistakable genius. He has limitless potential, and he has what it takes to become the Cerulean sorcerer. Even with God-given talents, Kanan went through endless trial and error, and he challenged himself to overcome it all. Jenny's inspired by Kanan's work ethic, so she decides to push herself too. She says that she can't lose to her own student, so she wants to visit her own teacher so she can continue learning herself. Later, Kanan is shocked to learn that Flora has resigned as well. Kanan finished the curriculum, and he graduated from the School of Noble Children, so Flora had nothing left to teach him. Flora said that she wouldn't have been able to hold back her tears, so she didn't say goodbye in person. Kanan says that he will write her a letter, so Aiko has a request. She wants Kanan to ask Flora if there's a man in her manor she can set her up with, because she's still looking for a husband. Kanan can't believe that she wants to leave too, but Aiko assures him that he will be fine on his own now. Kanan points out that everyone is leaving, and he fears that he might pass away from loneliness. He really doesn't want Aiko to leave, so he refuses to ask about the tall, handsome guy that she's looking for. That night, Kanan tells his father what Jenny said about him finding an exceptional sorcerer to teach him. Luckily, Ryota has a suggestion because he heard a rumor at school that there's an extraordinary royal sorcerer. Arson tries to interject, but Ryota keeps going. Ryota says that the guy's name sounded something like Zio, and their mother has heard of him. His name is Zeonli, and he is known for being a sorcerer of immense power and beauty. Kanan wonders if the guy will agree to be his teacher, but Arson tells everyone to hold on. He says that it's impossible to invite a royal sorcerer here, but Kanan can't understand why. Kanan reminds his father that he has connections because he's best bros with the king. Arson can only wonder where Kanan learns to talk like that, and he determines that it must be coming from Maiko. Arson then explains just how impossible it would be to have the royal sorcerer as a teacher. They are directly under the king's chain of command, and no one can give them orders other than the king. They rarely leave the castle, and getting in touch with them is restricted. Meeting with Diony directly would be difficult, and getting him to come to their house will be impossible. Arson hopes that Kanan will just drop the idea, but he is wrong. Kanan has an idea, so he says that he should accompany Arson the next time he visits the castle. He imagines a scenario where he gets lost and the royal sorcerers come to help him. He thinks this will lead him to becoming their apprentice, but Arson can't believe how flawed that plan is. Kanan assures his father that his plan has a 90% success rate, but Arson doubts that very much. Arson pokes holes in his terrible plan, but Kanan asks his mom, and she thinks it's a great idea. She helps Kanan convince Arson, so Arson agrees to ask the king. Kanan is very grateful, but Arson must remind him not to get his hopes up. Elsewhere, a Grandmaster is informed about Kanan and his request. He's an apprentice-level sorcerer, and he's asking to study under a royal sorcerer, but that's unheard of. Power and status mean nothing to royal sorcerers, and they won't care how close a noble is to the king. The Grandmaster reads over Kanan's profile, and he seems to take an interest in our hero. A while later, Arson is surprised because the royal sorcerer has agreed to meet with Kanan. If things go well, the king will even consider Kanan's request to have a royal sorcerer tutor him. Kanan says that this is the true power of nepotism, but Arson explains that this wasn't the case. It turns out that the royal sorcerers simply took an interest in Kanan. Arson would like to see what kind of magic Kanan has been working on, so Kanan shows him. Kanan's magic has gone to another level, as he shows Arson that he can create a real-looking cat with his Iori spell. Arson can't believe that it's really made of water, but it gets even more impressive. Kanan's learning to make its movements look super realistic, and he's also studying to make the cat's meows sound real too. When they arrive, they're greeted by Lady Raisha. Kanan turns the charm on to introduce himself, and he learns that she's Marika's sister. Raisha heard a lot about Kanan from Marika, but Marika never mentioned that he had a cat. Kanan surprises her when he reveals that it's not real, and he made it using magic. Raisha couldn't tell at all, and she determines that Kanan is much more skilled than she heard. Raisha prepares to take Kanan to the Black Tower, so Arson says that he will go speak with the king. Kanan says that he will return home himself, especially because he wants to spend some time with Marika. Arson says that he will arrange a carriage for him, and he tells Kanan to enjoy himself. As Raisha takes Kanan to the Black Tower, she reveals that she wants to discuss something with him. Kanan assumes that it has to do with the rich history of the sorcerers, but that isn't it. Kanan wonders if it has to do with the new interpretation of compound magic, but it isn't that either. Kanan is sure that it must be about the new theory on three-dimensional and oblique magic circles, but Raisha explains that it's not a high-level conversation like that. Instead, she reveals that it has to do with her family. Among them are 7 princes and 10 princesses. In most countries, the throne goes to the first prince, but in Hulia, they lean toward meritocracy. So depending on the achievement, birth order can be overturned. Raisha is nothing like her siblings though, because she relinquished her right to the throne so she could be a sorcerer. Just then, Kanan is startled as he senses several incredible magic powers coming from the Black Tower. It's almost terrifying, so Kanan can only wonder what kind of sorcerers are there. Raisha continues by saying that Marika is concerned that Kanan might get dragged into the issue of royal succession. Just then, Raisha is shocked when she sees Kanan gliding around. She has no clue what's going on, so Kanan explains that he created a very thin layer of water on his shoes and froze it. This allows him to slide across the ground with ease, and it's much faster than just walking. Kanan says that she can try if she wants, and Raisha couldn't be more excited. She stops herself though, because she needs to finish telling Kanan what she was saying before. She rushes through it by saying that Kanan shouldn't affiliate him with any faction without thinking about it first. Most importantly, he shouldn't sign or say anything that can be used against him. With that settled, she tells Kanan that she's ready to skate. Kanan puts the ice under her shoes as well, so the two begin skating all over the place. The guards fear that it's too dangerous, so they try to stop her, but the two of them are too fast to catch up to. However, some guy named Dario appears, and he is furious. Kanan points out that some angry guy is yelling for them to stop, but Raisha doesn't care. She just says that they need to go faster, but Dario eventually catches up to them. Nearby, Arson wonders what all the commotion is around the castle. A butler explains that a child sorcerer was being mischievous, and he was caught by a knight. Later, Kanan meets with the Grandmaster of the Royal Sorcerers, named Mande. Kanan introduces himself, but he's very uneasy. He thought that Raisha's magic was impressive, but this Mande guy is on a whole different level. Mande heard that Kanan has a water crest, so Kanan explains that it's on his left shoulder. Mande takes a look at it and notices that it's a 2-star crest. Kanan has no clue what that means, so Mande explains that there are 7 types of crests borne by sorcerers. They are fire, water, earth, wind, light, darkness, and foul. Each crest has 5 ranks, and the ranks are indicated by stars. Cunnin's crest only has 2 stars, which means it's second from the bottom. 2 stars are the most common, and Rachel says that she has a 2-star wind crest. Cunnin can tell that Monde is different because the density of his magic power is completely different than theirs. Monde's impressed that Cunnin could tell this, but Cunnin isn't done. He says that if his 2-star crest is regular cheese, then Monde's crest is more like premium blue cheese. Cunnin calls him Grandmaster Blue Cheese, and he assumes that Monde's crest is a 3-star. Monde reveals that he's actually a 4-star, but he's surprised when Cunnin doesn't seem impressed. Cunnin explains that this is his first time hearing about crests, so their magnitude just hasn't sunk in yet. Cunnin wonders if the different ranks influences the magic someone can yield. Unfortunately, their categorization isn't that clear, and the only clear distinction they know of is the total amount of magical power. The Grandmaster says it's not important right now, because what matters is what Cunnin will learn moving forward, and how devoted he is. Monde says that it's time for the fun to begin, so they go outside for a test. Raisha has already seen what he can do, so she assures Monde that Cunnin is very skilled. The other sorcerers recognize Cunnin as the hero Scar, and they're interested to see what kind of magic he can use. Cunnin prepares himself for whatever this test might be, and he wonders if passing the test will mean he gets a royal sorcerer as his teacher. He's eager to get started, so Monde calls on someone named Victo. Victo uses the Aori spell, and he creates several orbs of water. Cunnin is amazed, and Monde asks him if he can conquer Victo's spell with a spell of his own. Cunnin has never heard of conquering someone else's magic, and he thinks back to his lessons with Jenny. It was when she first showed him the Aori spell, and explained that it was magic to produce and manipulate water. Most importantly though, she told him that it would allow him to control water that was already there. Cunnin now thinks about how he has controlled water many times before, but manipulating the water another sorcerer created is something he has never heard of. This is something neither he nor Jenny could even think of, but he's still eager to see if he can do it. Cunnin uses Aori, and Victo's stunned as the orbs begin to move. Victo retakes control, and Cunnin's caught off guard because he never experienced water that resists his control. Everyone then watches closely as the 2 sorcerers battle over control of the orbs. It's a great struggle for our hero, but he commands for the water to come to him, and the orbs begin to pull apart. It seems like Cunnin's about to win, but Monde loudly declares that this is enough. Our hero is completely exhausted from the duel, so he collapses to the ground. He was only able to pull 2 of the orbs, so he's impressed to see what a royal sorcerer is really like. He's surprised though when Monde says that he did a great job. Victo didn't think that Cunnin would even stand a chance, but he's thoroughly convinced now. He sees Cunnin's potential, so he says that he would like to teach him. All the other royal sorcerers begin to argue, so Monde's amazed to see that they all want to have Cunnin as their disciple. Cunnin wonders if this means he passed the test, but Monde says that there's more to do. The rest of the test is a bit different, however, as Monde uses Cunnin's water like a trampoline. Monde can only wonder how this water works, so Cunnin explains that it's his super soft Aori. He encased water in a super soft and super stretchy membrane, so it makes it really bouncy. The others assumed that it would make a great bed, and it could even absorb the shock of a fall. Monde hasn't had this much fun during a test in a really long time, but Cunnin isn't done. He says that if he increases the elasticity, then Monde will be able to jump so high, he will easily be able to reach the 2nd floor of the castle. All the sorcerers would love to see this, but Monde says it's enough. If Cunnin showed them any more magic, they would just keep asking for more, and he wouldn't be able to go home. Just then, Raisha points out that Cunnin can make animals out of his water. She saw him make a cat earlier, so she wonders if he can even make humans. Cunnin shockingly reveals that he can, so he makes a clone of Aiko. Unfortunately, just like with animals, these humans' movements are still imperfect. Victo gets curious, so he wonders if this means that Cunnin can make them move in ways humans can't. Cunnin confirms this by explaining that he made it fly earlier. It was pretty strange to watch, and it wasn't received well. The sorcerers, on the other hand, are eager to see it, so Cunnin gives them what they want. He sends his human water doll into the air, but Ameda is terrified when she thinks that someone jumped out the window. Other people get scared too, so the sorcerers have to apologize to everyone for the confusion. Cunnin thinks about how he's been scolded twice today, but Monde tells him not to dwell on it. He says that they should talk about magic over lunch next time, so Cunnin wonders if this means he passed. Monde confirms it, and says that he will personally take care of assigning a sorcerer to be Cunnin's teacher. Cunnin couldn't be more excited, but he remembers what Rachel warned him about. He wonders if this would be considered siding with a faction, but she says it's okay. Power and status mean nothing to the royal sorcerers, and it won't affect anything that she mentioned earlier. Monde would like to know if Cunnin has any future goals, so Cunnin reveals that he wants to create eyeballs with magic. The sorcerers are very intrigued, and they wonder if Cunnin will really be able to do it. Afterwards, Cunnin is worried, as his father is clearly upset. Arsene had to hear about Cunnin's bad reputation twice today, so he wants answers. Cunnin apologizes, and Raisha explains that it wasn't his fault, because everyone got carried away. Arsene understands, but he also reminds them that really bad things can happen when sorcerers just do things when they are told to. Magic is power, so Cunnin should refuse to do anything that brings harm to others. Arsene reminds Cunnin that he's responsible for his own powers, so Cunnin apologizes again. Arsene leaves for the day, and he can't help but think about how everyone seems to have taken a liking to Cunnin. Just then, Cunnin realizes that it's getting pretty late. He has a dinner date with Marika, and it would be ungentlemanly of him to arrive all sweaty and out of breath after running to the date. Raisha agrees and says that they should combine their powers to solve this problem. She has Cunnin use Aori to create an orb and says that she will use her wind magic to make it fly. Cunnin's impressed, but there's a problem. He promised himself that the first time he flies or floats with someone alone, it would be with Marika. Cunnin is sure that Raisha's fiancé wouldn't like it either, but she doesn't care. She pulls Cunnin onto the orb and reveals that she doesn't have a fiancé. Cunnin realizes that there's no fighting it, so the two of them fly away. Raisha uses her wind magic, and they take off in the blink of an eye. Cunnin wonders if they're going too fast, but Raisha says that they need to go faster. They eventually arrive, but they lose focus, and they begin to fall. Luckily, the landing isn't too bad, and they're both grateful that Cunnin's water orb is really soft. Unfortunately, Dario saw the whole thing, so he points out that Cunnin has done something dangerous again. Inside, Marika wonders if Cunnin will like her dress. Her maid has never seen Marika act like this over a boy, so she wonders just what kind of person Cunnin is. Outside, we see that Cunnin's a bit of a troublemaker, as he's scolded by Dario for causing trouble for the third time today. Marika's really nervous about her date, so she paces around the room. She is told that Cunnin has arrived, so she rushes out the door. Cunnin is as charming as always, and he says that he looks forward to their first night out. Marika's maid takes a look at Cunnin and sees that this is the boy that has Marika's affection. At dinner, Cunnin gives a toast to Marika's beautiful eyes, and the maid is impressed by his gentlemanly poisoned behavior. Cunnin tells Marika about his day and about how he met Grandmaster Blue Cheese. He also passed the assessment test, and now he's waiting to hear who will be his teacher. Cunnin showers Marika with exquisite compliments, and his charm is on full display. He then makes a comment about the food, and the maid wonders if he's using a metaphor. She fears that Cunnin might be crossing some boundaries, but she can tell that Marika looks really happy. Just then Cunnin apologizes, because right now, a dinner is the best he can do. However, he says that when they get married, they will spend time together like this every single day. He declares that he can't wait for the future, where he will be walking by her side, and the maid is in awe of his way with words. Marika is enamored by him, and she looks forward to their future as well. That night, Marika blushes after her date, and the maid must remind her that she needs to sleep. A while later, Aiko asks Cunnin to help her with something. Cunnin uses his Arubu spell to create a bunch of orbs because they make washing clothes much easier. Cunnin explains that he was busy writing a report, but this upsets Aiko. She points out that he's been shutting himself in his room since he returned from the castle, and she demands to know why. Cunnin explains that he learned some stuff while he was there, and he wanted to write it down before he forgot. Aiko reminds him that going outside and spending time in the sun is one of his important jobs as a child. She says it's important for his growth, so Cunnin remembers that girls like tall guys. Aiko agrees, but she assures Cunnin that she would like him whether he was tall or short. Cunnin almost says that he feels the same way about her, but he stops himself because it would be rude to Marika. Aiko can't believe that he's talking like this now, and she calls him a real ladies' man. Afterwards, Cunnin's disappointed to hear that he still hasn't received a letter. He's waiting for one because it will reveal who his teacher will be. Back at the tower, Victo searches for Xianli, but Xianli doesn't respond to him. Victo finds him in his room, and Xianli reminds him that he should never dare interfere with his precious sleeping time. Victo apologizes and explains that the Grandmaster is calling for him. Xianli was annoyed at first, but hearing this news gets his attention. Back with our hero, he proudly announces that his new teacher has been assigned. Aiko wonders who it is, so Cunnin reveals that it's some guy named Xianli. Aiko is shocked because Xianli is rumored to be a magnificently gorgeous sorcerer. Every woman knows about him, so Aiko begins to panic. Xianli will be coming to their house, so she says that she needs to get a new maid outfit. Cunnin wonders if he should really let some other guy meet Aiko, but Aiko says that there's no time to talk. She needs to do her nails, and more importantly, she wants to lose some weight. Aiko rushes off to get ready, and she leaves Cunnin to wonder what just happened. Back at the castle, Raisha explains to Marika that a royal sorcerer must have a direct order from royalty for them to go outside. Xianli has to go see Kunin, so Mirka's going to order him to guard her while she goes to visit him. Raisha can't believe that Xianli was chosen because she wanted Kunin as her student. Just then, a couple of Mirka's sisters get in their way. They heard that Mirka's fiance has quite the reputation, but their intentions are clearly not pure. Raisha simply tells them that this has nothing to do with them, and she instructs them to get out of their way. Back with Kunin, he wonders what Xianli is like. Mirka arrives soon after, and he's caught off guard. Kunin explains that he mentally prepares himself every time he meets her, so seeing her unexpectedly has caused him to get really nervous about her incredible beauty. Kunin continues to pour on the charm, but we see that Xianli has heard enough. He exits the carriage, and Kunin immediately goes quiet. He can sense Xianli's incredible presence, and tensions begin to rise. It's broken up by Aiko, however, as she giggles from nervousness. Kunin continues to observe the sorcerer, and notes how his magical power is incredibly dense. The stickiness it has is also hard to describe, and Kunin compares it to honey. He has never sensed anything like it before, and it's a completely different type of magical power than Grandmaster Blue Cheese. Kunin thinks about how this guy is more proficient in magic than any of the royal sorcerers he met at the castle. Kunin really looks up to him as a sorcerer, so he formally introduces himself. He says that he would like to call him Professor Honey, but Xianli tells him to go kick rocks. Xianli instructs him to refer to him as Master Xianli, and he explains that he hates brats. Xianli reveals that he didn't accept the position of Kunin's magic teacher, and he doesn't even want to be here right now. The Grandmaster simply told him that there was an interesting brat that he should meet, so that is why he's here. Dario is also here, and he says that his job is to protect Mirka and Xianli. Kunin wonders if Xianli is just like Aiko imagined, and she says that he is. Kunin explains that he doesn't really understand what cool is, but from what he heard, he says that Xianli must be amazing. Xianli becomes furious, as he assumes that Kunin's mocking him, but Kunin assures him that he's not. Xianli doesn't know what to make of this kid, so he just determines that he's a bit strange. Kunin assumes that Mirka only came to bring Xianli to meet him, but she assures him that she also wanted to visit. The charming Kunin doesn't let this go unnoticed, and he tells her that he feels the same way. Xianli's tired of hearing them speak this way, and he reminds them that he's still here. He wants Kunin to have a fun conversation about magic with him, so Kunin happily obliges. Dario sees the face Xianli's making though, and he can tell that Xianli just wants to pick on Kunin. Xianli starts by asking what Kunin knows about compound spells. Kunin explains that spells are released from a magic circle drawn with magical power. Compound spells are created by dividing and rearranging magic circles. Xianli asks him how many sections he can handle, so Kunin reveals that he can do 31 sections. Xianli wasn't expecting this answer at all, and Kunin says that he can go up to 32, but sometimes that fails. Xianli says that's not too shabby, and he can go up to 50. Kunin is stunned, but Xianli just wants to hear how Kunin got past the 20-section hurdle. It's notoriously difficult, so Kunin reveals that he layered crests. Xianli's impressed to hear that Kunin got here on his own, and Kunin explains that he used a bunch of little tricks. Xianli wasn't expecting any of this, but now everything makes sense. The other royal sorcerers really wanted to be Kunin's teacher, and now Xianli knows why. They were really upset because an excellent student like Kunin doesn't come around very often. Xianli realizes now that they were really invested in Kunin because he's an exceptional talent. Xianli's done with the questions, so he tells Kunin to show him what he can do. Kunin wants Xianli to show him how to do 50 sections first, but Xianli refuses. He says that it would be pointless to teach it to someone who can't do it, and he's not going to waste his time. He tells Kunin to prove what he can do, and asks for instruction fair and square by being a good teacher's pet. Mirka is sure that Kunin would never agree to that, but she is very wrong. Kunin really wants to learn from the best royal sorcerer, so he asks Xianli to teach him. He rains down compliments over and over again, because he really wants to learn how to do 50 sections. Xianli has heard enough, and he tells Kunin not to call him Master Xianli because he hasn't acknowledged him yet. He does, however, agree to show Kunin just how awesome he is. Xianli reveals that he has the 3-star crest of Earth, and he uses his power to summon a wall. He instructs Kunin to try and destroy it with magic, otherwise he will drop him as a student. Before he tries though, Xianli says that he would like to see the waterbed that he has heard so much about. Kunin creates it, so Xianli announces that he will observe while resting, and he tells Kunin to do his best. The second Xianli touches the bed, he's overwhelmed with extreme comfort. It's like a pillow of down feathers, and he immediately falls asleep the second he lays on it. Kunin touches the wall, and he notices that it's really hard, but it's also smooth. What sticks out the most though, is that its density of magical power is incredible. In this moment, Kunin thinks about the basics that Jenny taught him. Magic is a crest, and a crest means a magic circle. The caster creates various spells by rearranging different magic circles, and those magic circles become the base of each spell. Compound magic refers to the number of times the base magic circle has been divided and reconstructed, and it's the essence of the magic. This number shows the level of magic and alterations. As for this wall, Cunnin determines that it's a crystal of compound magic with over 40 sections. This is really incredible, and he can only wonder how someone can increase the sections this much. Jess and Marika is shocked as Cunnin says that they should talk. Cunnin wants to wait for Xianli to wake up, but Marika wonders if that's a good idea. She reminds Cunnin that he will fail if he can't break the wall, but Cunnin reveals that he can destroy it whenever he wants. A while later, Xianli wakes up, and he's told that he slept for 2 hours. He sees that Cunnin is relaxing, and assumes that he just gave up on destroying the wall. Cunnin is as confident as ever, so he asks Xianli if he's ready to see him break it. Xianli tells him to go right ahead, so Cunnin uses his Arubu spell. This makes tiny orbs of water form on the wall, and Echo realizes that this is the same spell that Cunnin used on the laundry. Cunnin explains that this wall is made of dirt, which becomes extremely fragile when it absorbs water beyond its capacity. Xianli is very impressed, but he wonders why Cunnin used the Arubu spell when his specialty is the Aori spell. Cunnin's answer is simple, as he says that he only did it because it was easier. Xianli is amazed once more, because rather than using force, Cunnin saw the wall as dirt and chose to simply wash it away. Xianli explains that there are spells that are compatible with certain situations and subjects, and a sorcerer's job is to see through it. Cunnin takes this as a compliment, and he wonders if this means that Xianli will teach him. Xianli reminds him that he will be the one making that decision, and he confirms that Cunnin will be his student starting today. He tells Cunnin that he's the luckiest kid in the world, and Cunnin agrees with him. He says that he not only found his teacher today, he also had Marika by his side. Xianli is annoyed once again, and he reminds Cunnin that his teacher is more important than even his fiancé. Now that Cunnin is his student, there's a lot for Cunnin to do. Xianli has a million things to teach him, and he will even be helping him with his experiments. Xianli can only wonder what Marika will do, and she's caught off guard. He explains that Cunnin will improve a whole lot and move up in the world, so women will swarm around him to fight over him. Marika can't deny this, because Cunnin has already grown so much to become the student of a royal sorcerer. He's moving up rapidly, and she's still just a princess of low status. Marika's really down on herself, and she knows that if she doesn't do something, there will be no future where she is together with Cunnin. Marika begins to shake from nervousness, so Cunnin tells Xianli not to be mean to her. Cunnin can tell that Xianli likes to be mean to girls, and he's the type to realize it too late. Cunnin really turns the tables on this guy, as he says that he's the type to be mean to a girl he likes, only to see her stolen from under his nose. Cunnin really hits him where it hurts, so Xianli says that's enough. Cunnin wonders if he said something wrong to Professor Honey, but Xianli just tells him not to call him that. That night, Marika thinks about how Xianli was right, so she's determined to do something. Thanks for watching my recap. Make sure to like the video.